The Blue Book sightings for 1952 are 10 times larger than for any other year. One sighting during the Great American Flap of '52 stands out as a landmark case in the 100-year history of UFO cover-up. On August 19, 1952, in West Palm Beach, Florida, Scoutmaster Sonny Desvergers was driving home with some of his scouts when he claimed to have been burned by a flying saucer attack.
Does this look like it is the place, Chuck, or can you tell for sure?
This looks somewhat like it, yes.
I mean, I just pull off into here.
Carl Flock has located one of the eyewitnesses to the historic UFO encounter. Chuck Stevens was a 12-year-old Boy Scout in 1952.
Okay, now let's see. Now you guys, you stayed with the car back on the road, is that right?
Yes, we did.
Okay, and then let's see, he came in straight off the road and straight back into here?
Went straight back into the woods, yes.
Carl hoped to jog Chuck's memory of the event by walking him back to the area where the scouts had had their terrifying UFO encounter.
Well, I believe initially when we were heading south on Military Trail, we saw one white light where light shouldn't be.
Chuck recalled the night clearly. The weekly scout meeting had just ended, and Scoutmaster Desvergers was taking Chuck and two of his friends home. Suddenly, lights appeared in the sky over a stretch of deserted farmland, and Desvergers first thought that a plane may have crashed. The Scoutmaster stopped the car, and Chuck recalls watching the lights hover overhead for several minutes. When the lights didn't move on, Sonny Desvergers got out of the car and told the boys to wait there. If he wasn't back in 15 minutes, he told the boys, they were to run to a nearby farmhouse and call the sheriff. Chuck Stevens remembers watching the Scoutmaster descend into the woods toward the UFO. The boys waited, unaware that Sonny Desvergers would eventually re-emerge with a fantastic story to tell.
We were running down the middle of the road. Everybody wanted to be in the front. You know, they were afraid that something was going to get them if they were the last guy, so they wanted to be in the front.
Well, now, when you were running, could you still see the lights up in the trees, or?
Oh no, the lights were behind us, and hopefully real far behind us.
I see. Okay, so you were trying to put those behind you for sure. Okay.
Yes, definitely. When we got to the farmhouse, we called the deputy, the sheriff, and he came out and picked us up and took us back. And when we got back to the Sonny's car, about that time Sonny was coming out of the woods.
In the official report, the deputy noted that Sonny's uniform was charred. He had burns on his face and arms, but the UFO was nowhere to be seen, and the deputy had only Sonny Desvergers' word for what had really happened. Chuck Stevens does recall, however, evidence of the UFO encounter blanketed the site.
On the pine trees where a limb had broken off, like an example, this spot right here, it had popped out and the sap was running down the tree.
I see. And was there any other evidence of the incident? Anything that was dropped by him? Or?
The vegetation around there was wilted from, looked like what I took from intense heat. And we had reportings later that their findings was that the soil in the area that Sonny had indicated was singed or heated immensely 16 to 18 inches below the ground surface.
Now, declassified Blue Book files back up the remembrances of a 12-year-old boy, and the once secret report reveals that it isn't just ufologists who've been interested in this case. Page after page of data, photo after photo of the site, physical evidence taken by Air Force personnel just hours after the incident. It's all still part of the government file on the Scoutmaster incident.
The one feature of this case that is extremely puzzling, because otherwise it could easily be written off and would have been a long time ago as a hoax, is the physical evidence embodied in the vegetation that was collected by the Air Force. Although there are some possible ways to explain it, nobody has satisfactorily done so to date, as far as I know.
So why isn't this story as big as Roswell? How did the Air Force keep the lid on a UFO encounter where they had collected real physical evidence? It was simple. The government knew that the best way to silence the story was to let Sonny Disvergers keep talking. He was a braggart, embellishing the story with each retelling. He was branded a liar. Lifelong resident Vicki Oakes remembers what happened next.
Well, how was he treated? What was it that caused you to be...
He was fired. He was discharged as a scout leader. And he was labeled a liar and a cheat. And I just thought that was horrible.
Sonny dropped out of town, dropped out of sight, and has never been heard from since. All attempts to find him have failed.
I was rather disgusted with the way the man was treated. And I thought people should have come and seen that there was something, and they should have left him alone.
Vicki Oakes also revealed that she saw evidence of Sonny's encounter more than a year later.
We were quite surprised to find that there wasn't any growth in that big circle.
So it was an area, a circular area?
It was a circular area, and it had been burned, singed or something. Anyway, it was there still as it had been when they left it. And I thought, well, now, why couldn't somebody have come out and found out that here's evidence and not treated that poor man so badly?
That is the first time that and I think anyone else working on this case, have ever heard that there was a long-term effect that had never previously been reported.
Further evidence that the government was trying to keep the public away from knowing the truth comes from Lyman Bradford, who saw the 1952 UFO with his own eyes.
And I was looking out this way, which is east, and I noticed some type of big ship with lights all over. It was light enough that I got a good visual view of it, and it was descending, I would guess 60 to 70 feet above the ground level at that time.
Lyman did what any 7-year-old would do. He ran and got his father. And his father, a machinist at the local Air Force base, did what any of us would do. He took pictures.
The Air Force people who came out here, they took soil samples.
Yes, sir, and they took the camera.
But the camera never came back.
Yeah, we got the camera back.
But
sure
the film did not come back.
We didn't get the film.
Do you recall if your dad tried to get the
Yes, he did.
film back?
He inquired about it 2 or 3 times, and he was told, you have to remember now that he was, his paycheck came from there. And I imagine if they told him just forget it, he probably forgot it,
Do you recall if there was anything seen on the ground in the way
well, from what I get, yes. They came out and they took the samples. Okay. And they had a truck backed in here somewhere, and they took samples, and there was a round circle that was all the grass was like dead. It was just a round.
This was the following day.
That's the following day. It was all brown. Yes, from heat or gas or something.
I don't think there's any question that Lyman's story is significant, because it's the first new information in the way of a possible sighting that might confirm what was claimed by the Scoutmaster during that about his sighting in approximately the same time.
And while the Air Force insists that these old Blue Book files are all they've ever had from the Scoutmaster incident, where is Lyman Bradford's missing film? Where is the physical evidence being kept? And where is Sonny Disvergers and the secrets he may have taken with him to the grave?